Hello and welcome to Technically Speaking, a podcast where scientists and engineers come together to chat about a common interest, share knowledge, and satisfy some curiosity. I'm Ellie, and in this episode, I'm joined by Antonia to talk about the first Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change report from 1990 and 1992. That was a mouthful. And offer our points of view on how far we have come in terms of limiting the effects of climate change. Antonia, this was all your idea. You brought this to the table. Why are we looking back into the 90s?
It's a good question. I think it came from because I spend a lot of my working hours, you could say waking hours, thinking about how we can fight climate change. But yeah, I get paid to advise companies on how to reduce their energy use and therefore carbon emissions. And I also like sci-fi. And I thought it'd be funny or interesting to see what scientists, inverted commas, predicted in the early 90s on what the world would look like in 2025 or now, really. And, compare how the predictions were versus what has actually happened.
Yeah, that is interesting. I think it's funny to look back. You're right about what people thought. You always see those memes when it's like, oh, in 2050 we'll have flying cars. And it's like, we're not going to have flying cars.
We do have hoverboards, though.
Yeah, but it's not really the same. I'm thinking like proper Star Wars style. Everyone, forget a normal car. Everyone's got flying cars because that's just more fun.
We were just talking about levitating trains last episode.
That's true. I like a levitating train. Very smooth.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I need to give us more credit.
Yeah.
Technology's come further than I'm suggesting.
But has society come further with fighting climate change?
We should probably start by explaining what the IPCC is. I said it in the intro, but it's a lot of words all at once.
Yeah. So yeah, we could break it down into basically it's a bunch of scientists publishing work together in a collaborative way, and it's formed intergovernmentally, which means with different governments around the world. So we had a conference in 1979, which was the World Climate Conference of World Meteorological Organization.
Wow.
So yeah, in 1979, it was kind of a combination of a few different organizations. There's the World Meteorological Organization, the United Nations Environmental Programme, and International Council of Scientific Unions. And they all realised that actually we need to discuss this more often, hence the panel on climate change.
I like that. I feel like it makes me feel reassured that we've been talking about this for so long. I mean, I know it's not that long in the grand scheme of things, but at least in 1979, we realised that there was a problem and we thought we should probably do something about
it. Yeah. And this is kind of a culmination of research and work. And, different governments put money together in order to support this research, but also to sort of look beyond your boundaries. I think we've talked about it in other episodes where like acid rain didn't necessarily directly impact your own country because the cloud and the rains would spread across borders. So it had to be a collaborative effort to really join up and address these issues.
Yeah, you're so right. We definitely mentioned that, didn't we? The fact that like just because you're not affected directly doesn't mean that you obviously shouldn't pitch in and help solve the problem for the wider world. So we're talking intergovernmental world organization to decide what we should do sort of as one Earth, effectively.
Yeah.
I like that.
And so, there are countries which have more income and they would split it, put in, proportionally a bit more money, and that would hopefully support lower income countries. So they also benefit from this research because in some ways they get more, they are more heavily impacted.
Yeah, I suppose if you're a lower income country, perhaps you have less capabilities to deal with the effects of climate change in the first place. So then, yeah, the more research that is done, that is paid for, not necessarily by you, but by the world as a whole, can only be a good thing, I guess.
Yeah. So, you know, they just don't have just a just a wide remit of just climate change, solve it. They split it out into
They should.
working groups, yeah. So there's a group, well, they call them 1, 2, and 3
Fine.
creatively.
Yeah, logical.
The first one looks at the available scientific information on climate change. So actually, how do we know that climate change is happening?
Oh, a classic question that
Yeah,
we get. We don't have time to go into that, but let's just, for the sake of brevity, assume that we know and we have lots of scientific information on what's happening.
correct. So now we've, there's the people establishing how bad is it, how much acceleration we are having. Then second group, they look at the environmental and socio-economic impacts of climate change.
I think that's so interesting because I always think of like the poor animals, but actually it's the poor people, it's the poor everything that is, affected. The oceans, therefore the fishes, therefore people who want to eat the fish. And, it's just a huge interconnected web of everything that's affected.
Yeah, exactly. We live in the world. We don't just exploit it.
Not all the time, I promise.
um, but also, yeah, it will have an impact on your livelihood and how you live. So we can't just pretend it's only the animals. We
Yes.
are animals too.
Well, also, it's like stuff like if you need extra flood defenses or if you need to mitigate, the fact that it's going to be 50 degrees in the middle of Madrid in the summer, all of those things have like a knock-on economic impact. If tourists stop coming to your country because it's too hot, that
Yeah.
is a huge problem.
Yeah. And I guess that then comes on to the third working group is what should we do? So they formulate the response strategy.
That seems like the most important group, not gonna lie.
I suppose you need the other
What do we
two
do?
to kind of,
Yeah, to get there.
yeah, because if you didn't know how valuable um, tourism was to your country and how temperature affects tourism in your country, then you might not actually put very much effort towards responding to it.
In appropriate manner. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. You're right. I do like the idea of solutions, but like we said, we've got to get there first. It's a 3-stage process.
Yeah.
But what were they thinking then in 1992? Were they thinking we'll, get some laws going? Were they thinking, we'll start carbon capturing stuff out of the atmosphere? We're going to make all the planes run on biofuels. Did they have anything, that they were working towards?
There were obviously quite a lot of things they were working towards. I think first they were just trying to get everyone to recognize that it was a problem.
Right.
And, what I found quite interesting, it wasn't until the COP21 when the Paris Agreement was signed in 2015, which was when we actually had legally binding targets across the world in different countries on climate change. So up until then, everyone was just kind of saying, yeah, it'd be good if we reduce our emissions, but no one really committed on that global scale. So, even just going back, the target for reduction of CO2 carbon dioxide emissions was 60%.
That seems very high. I mean, like ambitious in a good way, but also.
But yeah, now our target is net zero. So
Yeah, this is true. That's true. Aren't we supposed to be net zero in 4 years in the UK? I feel like that's not going to happen.
depends what emissions we're talking about. The goal for the UK is net zero by 2050.
Oh, okay, 2050, not 2030.
No, Uh, there are intermediate goals. I can't remember them off the top of my head right now.
That's fair. I've put you on the spot.
And policy kind of changes as well.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think maybe with this it's better because like the world changes slower than one country gets a new government every 4 or 5 years who want different things. But this is like is beyond that in a way.
Yeah, like, well, the UK did make their own target in 2008 for, and that was legally binding. That was for 8% reduction of greenhouse gas emissions.
Okay.
So, the UK was advanced in
I like that we
places
were doing it before it was cool, before the Paris Agreement.
before it's warm, hopefully.
Oh, very good, very good. I'm really surprised about the Paris Agreement. I think there's not many things that you could say that most countries have signed in terms of like international law, international like deals or pacts in the same way. And I could be completely wrong because there could be things about war and resources and security that I know nothing about. But that one is the big one that sticks out to me at least.
I am obviously very weighted towards the environment and what environmental agreements have been made. There were some others like what's the word? Was it Kyoto? I think it was Kyoto
Oh,
1997 against
I
the
think you might
use
be right.
of ozone depleting substances.
Oh, is that the CFCs, isn't it, that we all had?
Yes.
Yeah.
And CFCs actually popped up in this report.
Oh.
So there already was the Montreal Protocol, which I think was about limiting certain emissions, including CFCs, or it might have been the measurement of greenhouse gases. Now I can't remember.
It'll be along those lines anyway.
Either one of those two. But it's funny because obviously we don't have CFCs anymore.
Yeah, that is amazing to me. It's like the acid rain thing. We
Mm.
like decided that we were going to solve it, so we did. Like we all worked together and it became much less of an issue.
Yeah, so, it feels doom and gloom sometimes, but it is also just timescales,
Yeah,
right?
so
Um,
true.
so yeah, back in when they produced this report, and they've sort of made it in two parts. There's like the 1990 and the 1992 part. They were all just kind of classed as the assessment report number one,
Okay, cool.
or the first assessment report. And back then, they were estimating that CFCs contributed something like 24% towards sort of the greenhouse gas effect.
That was quite high.
It is a lot. And I guess that was because of the prevalence of them until they got banned.
Yeah, I mean, I think if that was what they were focusing on, then they did a great job because that was a big problem and they made it go away.
Yeah. But unfortunately, they are gases that kind of stick around for a while. So even though it was like in the 90s, they're still sticking around. They still contribute something. In
Yeah.
1990, they estimated that over the 100 years life timeline, which is one that they kind of use a lot for greenhouse gases because they don't disappear immediately. They kind of stick around and cause that global warming effect. They were saying in 100 years, they would still be contributing about 11%.
Okay. So they knew that we shouldn't add any more, but
Yeah.
they couldn't take out the ones that had already, I guess, been added effectively
Yeah, they're
from the
still in the
CFCs.
atmosphere. Yeah.
Yeah. So what was so we had the first report, which was like early 90s.
Mm.
Then it took quite a while then to get to 2015 to have the Paris Agreement, where everyone said, okay, we're going to limit this global temperature rise to 2 degrees or below 2 degrees if we can.
Yeah.
Did they do anything sort of in the meantime? Like I know different countries were doing different things, but was there anything sort of more IPCC related?
Obviously they made a few more reports in between, and
Okay.
it was, we went in 2023 was their sixth assessment report.
Oh, okay. So it was like getting updated periodically.
So there's more understanding about the effects of greenhouse gases, and methane is one that's kind of been harder to understand because it has a shorter lifespan than, say, carbon dioxide, but it's more potent. So people are discussing about what's the impact of methane, but also trying to understand what the overall impact of all these gases is on temperature rise. So, and then therefore, when that temperature rise happens, what's the impact on the environment, nature, and everything?
Yeah.
So originally, even in like 2015, we thought if we keep temperature rise below 2 degrees, we shouldn't have what they call irreversible effects of climate change.
Yeah.
Since then, we've realised actually we need to review that and limit it to 1.5 degrees C.
Yeah, I remember this being a big thing. I feel like as I was growing up that it was all about the 1.5 or the 2 degree threshold. Like that was what they decided was really the target sort of for global warming.
And I am afraid to say we are not doing great on that front.
Oh boy. Yeah,
Yeah.
that doesn't surprise me, unfortunately.
So I think latest figures were we reached like 1.3 degrees C last year.
That feels risky.
Yes. And at times in places it will be higher. Obviously it's a global mean temperature. So that's why, you might say, oh, I've not experienced it, or I haven't noticed it, but it's all about overall across the globe.
Yeah.
And I think what they were expecting back in the 90s was we would have 0.3 degrees C rise per decade.
Okay, so what you said we were about 1.2. So they predicted would just a bit less in 30 years. Like 9 sort of thing.
And this
0.9.
is what they called the business as usual scenario.
Oh, so if we do nothing, we just carry on.
Yeah.
This is what they think will happen. So
And
not only did we business as usual, we business too hard and we over businessed and
yeah,
made it
we
go up
business
even
as
more.
usual so much that we are as predicted, which is cool because, yeah, we predicted it. Bad because we have done what was
Overshot it.
expected.
Yeah.
I mean, there was quite a bit of uncertainty. They did sort of give a range of 0.2 degrees C to 0.5 degrees C per decade.
Oh, okay. So if you take the higher end, we've just smidged in under. But if you take the lower end, then we're really outdoing ourselves. But you
Indeed.
mentioned all these like legal ramifications of the IPCC report, the Paris Agreement. Are we not like how do you prosecute a country? Because clearly we're not doing what we agreed to do, what we are supposed to do. But then if everyone is also not doing what they agreed to do, are we all just in the naughty corner?
That is a good question. I mean, something that was part of these conference of parties, the COP numbers,
Yeah.
was something called nationally determined contributions. So they were trying to agree how much each country should put into a general pool of money to help people reach these climate change targets.
Right.
So, people argue, well, the developed countries are developed because they use so much fossil fuel in the
Yeah.
Industrial Revolution and caused these emissions.
Yeah, fair point. I see where they're coming from.
So you should give more money.
Yeah, because we're the problem, right? We've used up our allotted amount in theory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if we said we all had an allocation of how much, or carbon budget, as some people
Yeah.
phrase it, yeah, we used it up. But on the other hand, we're also telling people, nations that haven't developed as much, you have to develop, but you can't develop the way we did.
Yeah. becomes very tricky then, doesn't it? Like, not well economically, but also geopolitically, saying this is how we grew. Look how well we're doing, effectively. Oh, but no, you can't do it like this because that's now bad, and you have to use these greener technologies, which perhaps aren't as easy to install, are more expensive, require different sort of infrastructure.
Yeah. So it is quite a tricky one. And then, yeah, what are the legal ramifications? I guess it would take for someone to actually go and make a case, and I don't know if that's going to be at like the United Nations Human Rights Convention, because I guess in a way you are restricting other people's human rights to live and to have access to, say, safe shelter, clean water, healthcare, all that. What if you're already in that situation? Are you going to be able to prosecute people?
It seems unlikely.
There are projects like, Amnesty, like charities like Amnesty International, or there's a Good Law Project who do kind of take on these cases, and there'll be a bunch of lawyers who can try and fight for the good.
I suppose it's also, what do you want to get out of it? Do you want them to, provide safe shelter for the people that have been affected by the flooding in their region, or do you want them to apologize? It depends what you're trying to gain from doing that. So yeah.
Is it you want, let's say solar panels so you have power, or clean water, and so you need clean water technologies, because one of the things that is a problem is sea level rise.
Yeah, exactly. How well, we said that they predicted sort of 0.9 to 1.5, and we're slightly at the higher end. But are we trying at least? Have we? Surely countries have made a conscious effort to mitigate this to at least some extent, or has it become the sort of COP meme where it's all just greenwashing and Shell and BP rock up and influence it all?
That is a good question. One of my favorite websites is Our World in Data.
Right?
And what we do see is, emissions are increasing in developing countries, as you might expect, or the large, rapidly growing countries like China and India. And they have already sort of said in their net zero targets that we're not going to be net zero by 2050. We're just not.
Yeah.
They're expecting to peak after 2050. Whereas, countries like the US, the UK, other countries in Europe have already reached their peak and are declining in
Is in
emissions.
peak of like carbon emissions, yeah.
Yeah. Other greenhouse gas emissions are a little bit more difficult. But carbon dioxide probably contributes like 80% today.
I feel like it's the big one. That's the one that anyone's always talking about, isn't
Yeah.
it? Is the effect of carbon dioxide.
But yeah, I'd say, a lot of Europe have electrified their power generation. Nope, I've just
Yes.
said it the wrong way around. I just said electrified electricity. I mean, I think they've made more electricity without made more electricity without fossil fuels. And like the UK, sometimes we're over 50% generating electricity
Yeah.
with renewables.
I get those Guardian notifications where it's like, today we didn't use any fossil fuels. We ran the whole country off wind and solar and
Yeah.
whatever else, nuclear.
So,
I think there is more of a push, isn't there? There seems to be more of a public sort of opinion that we shouldn't be using fossil fuels, that we should not frack and mine and do all the things that we used to do in the past, perhaps.
yeah. But unfortunately, I would say the volume of Europe is just kind of dwarfed by other continents and countries.
Yeah. Well, I think notably is that the US backed out of the Paris Agreement, right?
Yes, politically, they've been changing, kind of in and out dance.
Oh, yeah, but depending who's in charge, right?
Yeah, I don't know how much. I don't know what these ramifications are because there aren't many countries that have left it. I think Iran is the only other country that's left it.
Yeah.
Um, but you could argue the US has other problems affecting people's well-being and livelihood.
You could argue that. I mean, I think it's a bit disheartening when you see, France perhaps or Spain or Italy having Germany, having green measures and, like you say, going to more electric things and making clean energy when basically the whole of Europe could fit inside the US and the US is investing in more mines and more fossil fuel infrastructure and isn't, is run by a person that doesn't believe in climate change, which is pretty
Yeah,
upsetting.
yeah. It's the what they call the challenge of assuming that growth only like economic growth only happens with carbon emissions, whereas Europe has what they call decoupled the two. So, there is still economic growth without increasing greenhouse gas emissions. So,
Oh, I didn't realize that was a sort of phenomenon or a thing.
yeah, it's only been recent in recent years, but it's definitely something that like needs to be promoted, I guess.
Yeah, but I think now it makes perfect sense that you could have economic growth without an increase in carbon emissions because you can run cars, on electricity generated from wind, or essentially you can still provide power in an eco way. Uh, if only the US would catch on to that
Yeah,
idea, and if only there was, oil makes people a lot of money, and so they don't want to give that up necessarily.
I think it's the challenge of what is your economy made of as well. So, you know, people are also concerned about Europe deindustrializing. So, having to rely on other countries for manufacturing and product products.
Yeah.
Because, certain laws came in place. Like the Large Combustion Plant Directive was quite a big one that forced Europe to close a lot of coal plants because they just weren't going to meet that emissions threshold, for example. But in then later on they introduced the emissions trading scheme, which started targeting smaller power plants, which then also started affecting people that burn or companies that burn a lot of fossil fuel for, say, like chemicals, iron and steel.
Yeah.
And we still need those products. They just come from elsewhere now.
Oh, because we can't burn the fossil fuels in the same way that we used to, so we have to ship them in or whatever.
Yeah, which there are now new um mechanisms, I suppose, to try and address that, like something called the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, CBAM for short, which is trying to balance that out. So if you're importing certain products like steel, then you have to estimate how much carbon was there. So if you buy it from somewhere that traditionally uses a lot of coal,
Yeah.
then you probably are going to be importing more carbon, and so you need to pay for that when you buy it into Europe.
Oh, interesting. You sort of have to pay the fine essentially of
Yeah,
using a product made with a lot of emissions.
correct. But it's just very complicated.
Yeah. But that's the thing, isn't it? It's none of these solutions, none of these ideas are simple when you think of them even on a country level. It's not easy to change something that you've been doing for hundreds of years, even if, the outcomes are good ones, especially when not everyone is putting in the same effort that you are.
Yeah, and the to get to the point of understanding the data is also very challenging.
Yeah.
So how how can you be certain about those numbers if they don't measure it? So then you don't, you could be making the decision based on a lot of estimation.
Yes, and then, the errors are always creeping in. Imagine if we'd never had fossil fuels to begin with. Imagine, like we were saying about some countries, that they have to not develop in the same way. If someone, instead of going, oh, I could burn that to, spin a turbine and create steam and create electricity, what if they'd just been like, oh, I'm going to build a wind turbine and see where that takes me instead? Isn't that such a strange hypothetical?
Well, I will say there are some countries that have actually reached net zero already.
Oh, that's interesting. Are these the tiny, like, island nations and stuff?
They are tiny.
I mean, they call them paradises for a reason, don't they? But you don't, I think when you're small, you don't necessarily need, you know, the greenhouse gas emitting factories that we had before to make stuff.
I think the other thing is these are also nations that have retained their forests. So they are carbon
Oh,
sinks.
that's interesting. Yeah, because I always think of Madagascar and how it's, completely, it was basically all forest and now there's barely any left.
Yeah. Somehow Madagascar are on this list of net zero
Oh,
emitters.
interesting.
But at the rate that deforestation is happening, they could become a net emitter by 2030.
I mean, called it. Just saying. I bet that's terrible, isn't it? It's terrible that that is sort of the price of progress in a way. That to, you know, you need homes for people to live in, you need livestock for people to eat, so you need land, and then you clear the forests, and then obviously you take away the carbon sink.
Yeah. So I guess this is where some people are like, the water, food, energy sort of problem, that they're quite interlinked, because you need the land for people, you need food land for feeding people.
Yeah.
If we use different energy technologies, we need the land for solar, wind, biomass, biofuels.
Whichever it is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fun problem, isn't it?
Wow,
So
it's really taken a turn. I mean, there's just so much uncertainty as well, isn't there? It's like we don't necessarily know what's going to happen, but I think most people perhaps would agree that we're not doing enough. Is that a fair statement?
I think it is probably. I haven't checked what's the status of every country's targets, but I don't know that we are on target.
I feel like we're not. Even in the UK, a very well off nation with a lot of infrastructure, and we're not. People don't have the. Well, I say people. I say politicians perhaps don't have the impetus to do this sort of thing.
I think ultimately it's a very complicated problem. Like, if you're trying to model what is everyone going to do? How is the population going to grow? What technologies are people going to develop or adopt? Because
Yeah.
there's having a technology and there's actually using it.
Yeah, that's also true, isn't it? And it's like, even in my own life, I know that I know doing certain things is bad for the environment in terms of carbon emissions, but I'm not going to not go on holiday in the summer. And I'm not going to, you know, d- you can try and be as eco-conscious as you like, but there's always a limit.
Yeah, and it's that expectation of quality of life. People want to eat more meat in developing countries, which in turn increases emissions and land use. You can't hold back technology that we have developed. We have planes that can take us to different countries in, you know, a day. I
Yeah.
think we could probably get to the opposite side of the world in 24 hours on a plane, a normal passenger plane, right?
Yeah, relatively easily. Yeah.
So it's hard to stop that. And I think even back in the days of the Industrial Revolution, I think it was an economist called Jevon had a paradox, which was even when we make coal power plants more efficient, we will end up using more coal because people use stuff that is more efficient.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, because it will just
Drives
keep
demand.
going. Yeah, exactly.
So the demand is always kind of going to grow if things are better. Like, you widen a road, more people, there is more traffic because it's a nice road to use.
Yeah, because you've made the gap. If you made every motorway in the UK an extra lane wider, you'd then have more cars, which would then use more petrol and diesel and all of that sort of thing. Because you made it better. Which is why we should invest in rail, but that is a separate issue.
Indeed.
Okay, so we've talked about carbon a lot, but there are other consequences of climate change. How are we doing on things like sea level rise? Because that was always a popular one to read about in the media.
Yeah, so in 1990, they had a little estimate. They were expecting maybe 6 cm per decade over the next century.
Globally.
Yes, global mean. And it's quite a wide band of uncertainty, though. It was between 3 and 10.
They love these like standard error bars of whatever they would be.
I mean,
but it's hard to predict, obviously.
Yeah, I think that's quite fair. We're trying to predict the entire world for the next 100 years. There's going to be a bit of
shifty. Okay,
yeah.
I'll let you off. How are we doing then? So they said about 6 per decade for 100 years. With 30 years in, have we risen, 18 centimetres?
We have.
I don't know whether I feel good or not about that. I mean, at least you predicted it correctly, but at the same time, it would have been nice if you were like, "Oh no, it's only 3. We're okay."
No. Yeah, we're on.
It's not gone well, has it? We're bad with the temperature. We're clearly bad with the sea level rise. 21 by 2025, 21 centimeters higher than it was in 1990.
Okay, we are better than that.
Okay.
Since, according to NASA's satellite imaging, we are at 94 millimeters, so 9 cm.
Since 1990, that's good.
Yeah. The only problem is, the warmer the Earth gets, the more it increases. So the rate at which the sea level rise gets higher, and we are getting record sea level rises.
Oh,
In
okay.
some
That
years,
initially
it's
started
doubling.
positive. Oh dear. Oh dear.
So according to NASA, they're saying it's rising more than expected.
Okay, so yeah, it started off a little bit at a time, but obviously the Earth's got hotter and hotter. Therefore, things like polar ice caps melting is increasing in rate and that sort of thing.
Yes. We're losing mass. We're losing land. In the poles, Arctic and Antarctic.
As in, we're losing. Well, I thought when you said we're losing land, I thought you meant that the fact that the sea levels have risen means that like very low-lying nations are then therefore smaller.
That's true as well. That is true too. I was also thinking about the ice as well, which the ice also helps reflect some of the heat back.
Yeah.
So the more ice we lose, the more the Earth warms up. The more the Earth warms up, the more the sea level rises.
The hotter the planet becomes, the more ice melts. The more.
Yeah.
It's a dangerous cycle that we've got ourselves in.
Yes, unfortunately.
Is there any positives that we could take from this?
There'll be less ice blocking shipping routes.
Oh, so shipping will become more efficient because instead of going around the North or South Pole, they can just go, well, North Pole because South Pole's actual land. They can go straight over and therefore it'll be quicker.
Yeah, the only thing I could think of was the TV show The Terror, which was about an expedition that was trying to find a better way between Canada and Greenland. And, because of the ice that would form in winter, they were trying to get their expedition off before winter hit so that they wouldn't get stuck in ice. Spoiler alert, it didn't work out that well.
Oh, God. I mean, there may be unintended positive benefits to this. I can't see them myself at the moment, but doesn't mean there aren't any.
You could say we are working on it, though. Apparently, since the Paris Agreement, there have been 2,000 laws.
Okay,
made.
that's good. I feel like someone's doing something. If 2,000 laws have been made, like related to climate change
Yes.
per nation or whatever.
Yeah. Like national law or policy related. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. People care. Maybe we need a bit of a positive ending that people are trying. There are many groups that are helping to limit the effects of climate change.
Yeah. We just need to kind of accelerate that. Just kind of really go for it.
If you had a magic wand, what would you do? Would you ban everyone from getting more fossil fuels?
Oh, that's such a difficult one because obviously, how does everyone have energy? And energy equals food.
Yeah. And like the ability to go places and talk to your friends on Zoom.
I didn't even consider that part. I was just straight up we need food. Food requires energy.
Yeah, food doesn't require energy in the same way as like going on in computer requires energy. Like you could go outside now and plant carrot seeds and then you can have some carrots in, I don't know.
How did I get the carrot seeds?
You walked or biked to your local garden centre.
But that is also not as economically or even environmentally as productive as industrial farming.
No, it's not. It's not.
So this is why we've not said everyone should have their own homegrown food, because actually the amount of effort would be higher than having industrialized farming.
And then everyone would need their own land, and then that's a whole other problem.
Yeah. I wonder if you could farm without the use of extra, like, fuel.
Well, it depends what you're using it for, right? If you have a small enough area, then you could do it all by hand, or you could have a horse to plough your fields. But then you still need to feed the horse and, feed yourself.
Yeah.
And it takes time, you can't. What are you going to eat while you're waiting for your carrots and potatoes to grow?
Yeah, I've tried growing a few things at home. The fastest thing that actually grew was rocket.
Okay, well that's a start.
It is a start. It's quite a punchy flavor though. So just living on rocket might take the joy out of eating.
Yeah, it is a very tricky topic. I think if I had a magic wand, I would get rid of Trump. No, I would do other things.
I probably actually, yeah, okay. I would probably get rid of billionaires.
Or maybe we could not brainwash. We could wave our magic wand and influence the politicians of the world to care more about this.
I don't see. I think the problem with politicians is that they are swayed by people, and I think this goes back to another episode where I was just like, we just need to brainwash people.
You heard it here, folks. First, folks, Antonia and I are brainwashing all the people we need to brainwash to make this happen.
But arguably, billionaires have so much money that they can't spend it in their lifetime, that it
Wow.
could be used to solve some of these problems. And the amount of money that companies use to lobby politicians to do things that are not for the good of the wider population is also a huge problem. And that is partly why I think certain things don't progress as fast.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Okay, well, that depressing note, I think we should probably wrap it up. It's not looked good, I think, for the last 30 years since the first ever IPCC report was published, but there are good things that have come out of it. At least we have 2,000 laws that we never had before. At least people are aware of the problem, even if they're not doing quite as much as we would like to combat it. If you've enjoyed this episode, please stick around for the next one, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
The views expressed in this podcast belong entirely to the person that said them. They do not represent any industry or organisation. If you enjoyed listening to these views, it would really help us out if you could rate us, leave a review and tell a friend. This podcast was sponsored by no one, but if you're interested in funding us to continue to have frank discussions about science and engineering, please get in touch.